Imagine sitting at a royal banquet, surrounded by opulence, golden goblets, and the finest silks. But instead of caviar and roasted pheasant, the dishes before you make you recoil in horror. Welcome to the world of the grossest foods ever served to kings, queens, and emperors. Tonight, we peel back the velvet curtain and reveal the shocking, bizarre, and often stomach-churning delicacies that filled royal plates. From fermented fish that could strip paint off walls, to desserts made of live insects, the extravagance of royalty sometimes crossed the line into pure grotesque. Are you ready to feast your eyes and shiver your senses? Let's step into history's most nauseating banquets. The first shock comes from the royal tables of Europe, where the peacock wasn't just admired in the garden. No, the bird itself became a centerpiece, literally. Peacocks were sometimes roasted and served with their feathers reattached, so they appeared alive as they were presented to the guests. But it didn't end there. In some cases, live birds were hidden inside pastries, only to escape in front of startled diners. The spectacle was meant to impress, but we can't ignore how unsettling this must have been for anyone with a delicate stomach. In Sweden, fermented herring known as surströmming was considered a delicacy and an absolute nightmare for the uninitiated. Royal chefs would ferment fish for months until the aroma could literally knock people off their feet. The stench was so potent that banquets often required open windows and even outdoor courtyards to prevent fainting. But Europe wasn't the only place experimenting with stinky dishes. In medieval England, pastes made from rotting fish, blood, and spices were spread across bread as an appetizer. It seems that for royalty, the more pungent the food, the more prestigious it became. Royalty often prided themselves on serving exotic animals, some now considered bizarre or outright repulsive. In Tudor England, roasted swans were a symbol of wealth, while in other courts, dormice were stuffed with nuts and served as a gourmet treat. These small, furry rodents were considered a high-status snack, often cooked with honey and spices. And the French court wasn't immune to this eccentricity. Frogs, snails, and even baby pigeons were elevated to delicacies, sometimes prepared in ways that would make today's diners lose their appetite entirely. Blood was a major ingredient in many royal recipes. Black pudding, a sausage made from animal blood, fat, and grains, was considered a luxury in some courts. But the extravagance went further. Some feasts included dishes where intestines were carefully cleaned, stuffed, and roasted, a process that demanded both skill and a strong constitution. Royal diners were encouraged to appreciate not only the taste, but also the display of culinary mastery. To us, it's disturbing. To them, it was a mark of refinement. In some Asian and European courts, insects were not merely survival food, they were delicacies. Crickets, beetles, and even grasshoppers were fried or baked into pastries and served to impress guests with exotic tastes. In certain royal households, the live presentation of insects was used as a culinary shock tactic. Imagine opening a dish to find buzzing critters wriggling across your plate. While modern palates recoil, these insects were believed to provide strength and vitality, and, of course, to dazzle visitors with the sheer audacity of the chef. Cheese, when aged to perfection, is still a treat today, but in the royal courts of medieval Europe, extreme fermentation was a mark of prestige. Certain cheeses were deliberately left to mold extensively, resulting in pungent, almost toxic aromas. Some records describe guests being served blue cheeses so strong they had to breathe through a cloth to avoid nausea. And it wasn't just dairy. Fermented grains, and even wines that had gone off, were presented as delicacies, a sign that royalty could endure flavors the common folk could not. Royal dessert tables were spectacles of sugar and creativity, but some creations crossed the line from impressive to disgusting. Sugared meats, candied animal parts, and even confections containing bone marrow or gelatin from less than appetizing sources were not uncommon. These desserts were designed to shock, showcase wealth, and sometimes to amuse the court with grotesque humor. For modern viewers, the idea of biting into a jelly shaped like a cooked snake or a candied rooster is enough to send chills down the spine. And we've only just begun. From live spectacles to putrid ferments, the first half of our journey into the grossest royal foods has revealed a world where taste, theatrics, and shock value collided. But the strangest, most stomach-churning dishes are yet to come. In Part 2, we'll uncover even more horrifying delicacies, including the infamous royal jellies, grotesque feasts for entertainment, and some dishes that make modern fast food look tame. Stay with us. Your next bite of history is even more unsettling. Previously, we explored the shocking world of royal banquets, live birds, stinky fermented fish, insects, moldy cheeses, and desserts that would make anyone lose their appetite. But if you thought that was the height of grotesque, prepare yourself. The next dishes go beyond taste, into spectacle, ritual, and downright horror. In some courts, especially in Renaissance Italy, chefs turned banquets into theatrical spectacles. Imagine a pie so large that it concealed live birds inside. When the pastry was cut, the birds would fly out across the dining hall, startling guests. Even more extreme were lobster or crab dishes kept alive until the moment they were served, claws snapping as diners recoiled. These feasts weren't merely about food. They were displays of wealth, ingenuity, and shock value, a reminder that in royal circles, entertainment could be profoundly stomach-churning. Gelatin, derived from boiling animal bones and connective tissue, was a luxury in medieval Europe. But some royal jellies were prepared with unappetizing ingredients, sometimes bones, sometimes entire small animals, suspended in a wobbly, shimmering mold. Imagine attempting to enjoy a dessert, only to realize the delicate, sweet-looking jelly holds a grisly surprise. These creations were designed not for taste, but for shock, prestige, and the sheer display of culinary mastery. European royalty sometimes embraced extreme odors as a mark of sophistication. In Venice, certain banquets featured fermented meats and fish so pungent that guests would hold their noses while sampling the dishes. In some cases, the smell was so overwhelming that feasts had to be held outdoors. While this may sound like torture, it was considered a sensory challenge, proof that only the refined, wealthy elite could withstand flavors and aromas deemed too strong for ordinary folk. Royal chefs loved turning food into art, but sometimes the art was horrifying. Gilded fruits stuffed with offal, sugar sculptures containing meat or brain matter, and marzipan shaped like, well, creatures or humans, were all part of the spectacle. Guests were expected to admire the artistry before eating, and sometimes the shock was part of the flavor. These displays weren't just food. They were statements, power, creativity, and a willingness to endure the grotesque in the name of culture. In many royal courts, food was more than sustenance. It was ritual. Certain dishes symbolized conquest, fertility, or divine favor. In France, elaborate pies might contain symbolic animals representing wealth or power. In England, ceremonial pastries sometimes featured live creatures to bring luck or demonstrate mastery over nature. To modern eyes, these foods are bizarre or even disgusting, but for royalty, they reinforced status, tradition, and sometimes fear. Dining was a performance, and the stomach was secondary to symbolism. Historical records hint at recipes that involved extreme methods of preparation using ingredients most of us would never touch. While claims of cannibalism are often exaggerated or symbolic, some royal dishes included unusual and shocking ingredients, like human hair in pastry or elaborate files of body parts used for medicinal cuisine. These ingredients were believed to confer health, strength, or spiritual benefits. It's a chilling reminder that for centuries, royal kitchens pushed the boundaries of what was acceptable and edible. Today, many of these dishes are unimaginable at any dinner table, but their influence lingers. The obsession with exotic ingredients, shocking presentation, and culinary spectacle can still be seen in modern haute cuisine. The difference? Modern chefs use creativity to delight, rather than to repulse. And yet, understanding the grotesque history of royal banquets reminds us just how far human taste and tolerance can stretch when combined with wealth, power, and extravagance. Royal banquets weren't just meals. They were performances, statements, and sometimes tests of bravery. From stinky fermented fish to wobbly jellies with horrifying surprises, these feasts prove that history's elite were willing to endure almost anything in the name of prestige. If you found yourself both horrified and fascinated, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. because our journey through history's most shocking secrets is just getting started. Share your thoughts in the comments. Which royal dish would you dare to try? If you could,